Alright, guys, welcome along to another episode of 420 News, guys. And I'm your news host, Martin Condon. And, guys, 420 News, if you don't already know, it's brought to you by Martin's World. Guys, if you'd like to support the fight for cannabis legalisation in Ireland, and if you'd like to help me set up a cannabis activist hub here in Cork City, where we can bring together cannabis activists to fight for legalisation of cannabis in Ireland, you can do so by signing up to the patreon.com/Martin's World. Or you can also make donations there in the form of bitcoins following martinsworld.ie. There's a button up there on the homepage to make donations with bitcoins. Excuse me, guys, it is Friday. It is high day. Hope you're all good out there. Hope you're all rolled up and ready for 420 news. We're going to start off with some good news for you today, guys. For a change, it's somewhat good news. It's mostly good news, actually. There's a small bit of negative in there with it, but look, for the best part, it's good news. So, before I get into it, I would like to just remind people, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook and stuff, get over there and show some support for Vera Toomey. Use the hashtag #TalkToVera if you're on Twitter. And just show all the support you can there, because our health minister and the guys in power, they're basically abusing this woman now at this stage. It's unfair what they're doing. They're discriminating against her and her child because of the type of medicine that the child is getting, and that's unfair. It's something that we can't stand for in this country anymore. It's discrimination. So guys, just show your support there on social media. Get over and share Vera's recent video there. It was Ava's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday there as well to Ava, who was 11 yesterday. And her mother took to Facebook yesterday to share what was a rather emotional message, sharing some kind of real disgust there as to the political establishment and the way in which they're treating the medical cannabis patients here in Ireland. So guys, do get over there. Twitter, it's Vera S1, Vera's1, I believe is her Twitter handle, and Vera Toomey on Facebook is where you'll find her. She's also on Instagram as well, guys, if you can give her a follow there too. And so, guys, we'll go on. Excuse me. Before we do there, I'm just gonna spark up my olfactory. Tobacco free, guys, so not to worry, don't panic, it's all organic. I think even the skins are actually organic. There were some, oh look, they're see-through. The skins are some organic hemp skins, and it's some organically grown cannabis from a good cannabis grower here in Ireland. Reducing, it's got low food miles, it's good for the environment. Also got a sprinkling of hash inside there too. So, guys, just so you're not just looking at me sitting here smoking, the first bit of the news, and the bit of good news I have for you today is that basically on December 2nd until December 4th in Vienna, Austria, the UN Nations Commission on Narcotic Drugs are going to be meeting. And they're going to be meeting, here's their little logo there. So they're going to be meeting for the purpose of discussing some recommendations there that were made by the World Health Organization. So guys, you should all know who the World Health Organization is by now. With all of this whole coronavirus crap going on all the time, they've been in the news an awful lot. Coming close after that then is NFAT, those guys, one downside of having a joint actually while doing the 420 news is my hands get kind of sweaty when I'm here reporting the news live to you guys. Not going to lie, I don't know if it comes across at all in the camera, but this makes me incredibly nervous. I'm live, I don't know how many people could be watching this even after the fact when this goes out. I don't know how many people watch this, so it actually makes me incredibly nervous. So I've got sweaty hands, which doesn't make for good holding for your skins. Should get a roach clip or something, make life a lot easier actually. But anyhow, guys, so following The 41st meeting of the World Health Organization Expert Committee on Drug Dependence, the ECDD. The World Health Organization made several recommendations regarding cannabis. And so that's what the meeting is going to be about there on the start of December 2nd to the 4th. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that and the outcomes of that meeting. I'll elaborate there in a couple of minutes as to what the recommendations that were made. But before I get into that, I'd just like to fill people in if you're not up to date as to how drugs are regulated through the UN, and how, like, what that means to our country. So how drugs are classified by the United Nations. The United Nations Conventions of 1961 and 1971 each list substances in 4 schedules which determine their control for international trade. The schedules group substances according to their therapeutic value and risk to public health. The World Health Organization Expert Committee on Drug Dependence, the ECDD, an independent group of experts, may examine the evidence available for such substances and recommend their positions within the schedules. The UN's Commission on Narcotic Drugs should then vote on whether to accept the recommendations. And so the 1961 convention, which obviously comes first, that broke the drugs down into 4 different schedulings. Scheduling 1 being the harshest of the schedules, and Schedule 4 being the least severe of them. So substances in Schedule 1 are liable to similar abuse and productive of similar ill effects as the drugs already in Schedule 1 or Schedule 2. The substances in Schedule 2 are similar to abuse and productive of similar ill effects as the drugs already in Schedule 1 or 2. So kind of a repeat there. So basically Schedule 2 drugs are just a little bit, they can be dangerous, but they can be prescribed. So what's in Schedule 2 includes things like codeine, whereas in Schedule 1 you have drugs like cannabis and heroin and cocaine. Schedule 3 then are drugs that are their preparations because of the substances which it contain. It is not liable to abuse and cannot produce ill effects, and the drug therein is not readily recoverable. And then Schedule 4, the drugs which are already in Schedule 1, if particularly liable to abuse and to produce ill effects, and such liability is not offset by substantial therapeutic advantages. So what you have to know here is that cannabis and cannabis resin find itself in both Schedule 1 and Schedule 4. So had they just been in Schedule 1, that mightn't have been so bad. But the Schedule 4, which is basically saying that the damages done are not offset by the therapeutic advantages. So that's kind of what is meant by Schedule 4, and cannabis and cannabis resins have found their way into Schedule 4, along with, I think included in Schedule 4 there are extracts and tinctures from cannabis. And then in 1971 then, they went on to further kind of break down these schedules, and they kind of broke the drugs down again, and this was all ratified by all the signing countries there to the convention, quite a few of them. But again, Schedule 1 include drugs claimed to create a serious risk to public health whose therapeutic value is not currently acknowledged by the Commission on Narcotics and Drugs. It includes isomers of THC, synthetic psychedelics such as LSD, and natural psychedelics like certain substituted tryptamines, amphetamine type substances such as catanone, MDA, and MDMA ecstasy also fall under this category. Then Schedule 2 includes certain amphetamine type substances with therapeutic uses, including delta 9 THC and its synthetic form dronabinol. It also includes amphetamines and methamphetamines. Schedule 3 then includes barbiturates, products with fast and average effects, which have been the object of serious abuse, even though useful therapeutically, strongly sedative benzodiazepines like fluorotryptazam, and some analgesics like buprenorphine. Jeez, I'm terrible with these chemical names. The only amphetamine type substances in this category is cateine. And Schedule 4 then includes some weaker barbiturates like phenobarbital and other hypnotics I'm going to butcher those now because I've spare cotton mouth as well. But, Schedule 4 in this instance anyway, it's important to know that Schedule 4 is the lesser of them, Whereas in the 1961 convention, it was Schedule 4 was kind of it was bad for to be included in there. Whereas in this one, it's not as bad. Um, so where does cannabis fit in all this? So in the 1961 convention, substances are listed in either Schedule 1, Schedule 2 according to their liability of abuse and production of ill effects. Substances may also be listed in Schedule 3 if available in a medicinal preparation, or Schedule 4 if particularly harmful with few therapeutic properties. Extraction tinctures of cannabis are listed in Schedule 1, as I said, and cannabis resin, however, are both listed in Schedule 1 and 4. And what happens here is the inclusion in Schedule 4 makes them very difficult to trade for medicinal purposes. So, like, that's something to be remembered. Is Schedule 4 makes it very difficult for cannabis medicines to be not only traded but also researched. Um, Research is also restricted because of them being included there in that scheduling 4 of the 1961 convention. Now, don't mix that up with the 1971. Again, could be confusing there, like, but bear with me. And then in 1971 convention, substances are listed 1 to 4 on a broadly inversive scales of risk to public health and therapeutic usefulness. Currently, THC is classified in Schedule 1, especially serious risk to public health and limited, if any, therapeutic usefulness, while Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol is classified in Schedule 2 with substantial risk to public health and little to moderate therapeutic usefulness. So that's kind of interesting there. So what they're saying here is they're basically saying tetrahydrocannabinol from cannabis is in Schedule 1 and Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. What I think that what they're alluding to here is the synthetic form, which is the dronabinol or the marinol or the salsa, or something along those lines. Anyway, these are like generic drug names for the synthetic delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, because they actually differentiate between the two here. They're saying the one from the plant is more dangerous than the one from the chemical factory. I don't know how they come to that conclusion, but anyhow, the trading restrictions are different then for each schedule, but they are also slightly different for each convention. The THC is therefore subject to different trading restrictions from the plant material in which it naturally occurs. As I just talked about there, the synthetic version is easier to trade, to transport across country lines than it is from the plant version. That flies in the face of actually us being in like a climate emergency there not too long ago. Surely natural is better. Surely it's better to get your THC from a plant rather than from a synthetic chemical source. What the hell? Um, but anyhow, so we get to the crux of it anyway, guys. So I hope you bared with me there as I just tried to fill you in on what the schedulings were. And knowing I've got into what the recommendations were that were made by the World Health Organization. And as I say, like, some here is good. Most of it, this is good. And there's slightly negative in there as well. So to focus on the good, cannabis and cannabis resins will be removed from Schedule 4 as it is not particularly harmful. For example, use is not associated with a significant risk of death. And that's coming straight from the World Health Organization. Now that's very positive, but within that, what I failed to mention there within that is that while they say they want to remove it from Schedule 4, they also want to keep it in Schedule 1, and they make that recommendation that it remains in Schedule 1. But as I say, if they remove it from Schedule 4, that opens up the door for research, that opens up the door for trade, for the medicinal cannabis industry. Whatever about, say, recreation and for adults, that side of things can be dealt with too, a bit later on. But I think it's a very positive thing. But I think the negative thing in there is that they're keeping it in Schedule 1, which I think that there's no justification for keeping cannabis and cannabis resins in Schedule 1 any longer. I think the fact that they're recommending to keep it in Schedule 1, it's reflective of some form of corruption. I don't know, that there's somebody there that's not allowing them to act on the information that's there, honestly. Because like everything they're saying up to now is great. The fact that they want to remove cannabis and cannabis resins from Schedule 4 based on the therapeutic uses of it. But the fact they're keeping it in Schedule 1, that just stinks to me. It stinks. If that wasn't there, I think this would be a beautiful news piece to be covering now. There'll be no negative in it. This is the only negative I could really kind of see within it. So not to get too bogged down on that. There's more positives to come. extracts and tinctures, they're to be removed from the conventions as it is a complicated term to interpret, covering preparations that have psychoactive properties as well as those that do not. Effectively, this will replace by a new entry in Schedule 3 of the 1961 Convention referring to pharmaceutical preparations of cannabis that do not pose a risk to public health. So again, great news there for medicinal cannabis patients and activists, campaigners. If these findings, if these recommendations are voted on favourably in early December, this could open up the doorways for governments to make changes there in legislation, because sometimes they use the UN and these conventions, these treaties, as a reason as to why to deny us access to cannabis. So, as I say, I will be paying very close attention to Vienna come December 2nd and 4th. I hope to even maybe get in contact with a person there on the ground who will be able to report back here live to us. So we'll stay tuned for that. Another recommendation made. So they made in total 5 recommendations. So the third recommendation made is that Delta 9 THC dronabinol is deleted from the 1971 convention and moved into the 1961 convention Schedule 1 with cannabis and cannabis resin. Again, I suppose that is a somewhat slightly negative move, going from a Schedule 2 in the 1971 to Schedule 1 in the 1961. That is somewhat of a slightly negative one again. If anything, it should be deleted from the 1971 and put into maybe the Schedule 3 of the 1961, if at all. But anyhow, that's just my opinion. And what do I know? Sure. Previously considered a pharmaceutical preparation that primarily refers to the main psychoactive component of cannabis. This will be a similar approach as for coca leaf cocaine and opium morphine. So that's the third recommendation. The fourth recommendation they make then is THC isomers are deleted from the 1971 Convention Schedule 1 and again moved to 1961 Convention Schedule 1 based on current knowledge. And it's a good thing in certain regards, but it shouldn't be going to Schedule 1 in 1961. It should be at least a 3. 3 is where it should be, I reckon. A CBD then, so the final recommendation there that they made was that cannabidiol, CBD, that add a footnote that products containing predominantly CBD and not more than 0.2% Delta 9 THC are not under international control. They are explicitly excluded as there is no relevant risk to public health. So that is the most amazing part of it. I really hope that they vote favourably on these recommendations, because I think that final recommendation there is a big one. I think that really will pave the way there for the CBD cannabis industry, or the hemp guys as they like to call themselves. But I think that would be a very interesting one if they're to vote favourably on that recommendation there. Because I think what that would mean then is that the laws around the importation of, say, cannabis grown in France or Italy that is less than 0.2% THC, it should be fine to import then. There shouldn't be any justification for Ireland, the Irish government, to deny you the right to import a legally grown and produced product from another European country. And it'd be interesting then to see where that would leave the laws around your right to grow CBD, because they shouldn't be controlling that either. Because what it is saying here is they are explicitly excluded as there are no relevant risk to public health. No relevant risk to public health. I'll repeat that one last time because it's really worth saying. No relevant risk to public health. That's coming from the World Health Organization, guys. This isn't coming from the stoners of La La Land, who've just dreamt up some sort of a hippie pipe dream of legalizing cannabis. No, this is from the World Health Organization. The same guys now, guys, remind you, they're giving us all the advice when it comes to the pandemic and all of this stuff, the guys who we're supposed to be listening to. And they've made these recommendations in regard to cannabis, and I hope they are listened to. I really do hope they are listened to, because sadly, I Not the rain on the parade, right? I just have to fill you in on the history of THC in these treaties and conventions and past recommendations that were made on them. Okay, so THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, the main active ingredient in cannabis. It was originally placed in Schedule 1 when the convention was enacted in 1971, just the 1971 convention. At its 26th meeting in response to a 1987 request from the government of the United States that THC be transferred from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. So the government of the United States now have made this recommendation. The World Health Organization, then the expert committee on drug dependence, the ECDD, they recommended that THC be transferred to Schedule 2, citing its low abuse potential and a moderate to high therapeutic usefulness in relieving nausea in chemotherapy patients. Guys, this recommendation was made in 1987, okay? The Commission on Narcotic Drugs rejected the proposal. However, at its 27th meeting, the World Health Expert Committee again recommended that THC to be moved from Schedule 2. At its 45th meeting on the 29th of April 1991, the Commission on Narcotics Drugs approved the transfer of dronabinol, which is the synthetic version, okay, from Schedule 1 to Synthetic 2 of the convention, while leaving other tetrahydrocannabinols and their stereochemical variants in Schedule 1. So basically, THC went from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, but only the synthetic version. If it comes from the cannabis plant, it's still in Schedule 1. So there you go, guys. This stuff is ridiculous. Like, how corrupt can you actually be? And it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. I wish it ended there. I really do wish it ended there. Like, because it's making me fearful of what could come out of December's meeting based on these past recommendations. So, at its 33rd meeting on September 2002, the World Health Committee issued another evaluation of the drug and recommended that THC be moved from Schedule 4, stating the abuse liability of Delta 9 THC is expected to remain very low as long as cannabis continues to be readily available. The committee considered that the abuse liability of dronabinol does not constitute a substantial risk to the public health and society. In accordance with the established scheduling criteria, the committee considered that dronabinol should be rescheduled to Schedule 4 of the 1971 Convention of Psychotropic Substances. So again, this was the dronabinol, okay? This was the synthetic version of THC. And this was the 1971 Act as well. So they want to bring it from Schedule... so they want to bring it to Schedule 4. So no action was taken on this recommendation. You know, guys, these guys are corrupt. They have no compassion. They're all out there. Like, from 1987 to today, they've basically got in the way of how many cancer patients have we had who could have benefited from access to cannabis to treat the nausea associated with the chemotherapy that they had. Not to mention the potential that was there for research to be done into cannabis type of therapies for treating cancer. You know, not just for treating the nausea with the chemotherapy, but no, actually looking at using cannabis to directly target cancer cells. You know, we could have been researching that, but no, they got in the way of this. These guys are corrupt, highly corrupt. I hope to God come this December I can change my view of them. Hopefully there's been faces changed there. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. But anyhow, guys, that's that on the World Health Organization and all their recommendations and all that crack. In other news, then, guys, we have some interesting news there for you. So the first one I'd like to share with you here is it's something lovely. It's I don't know, would you like this, guys? I know I would love this. It looks delicious. It's a cauliflower soup that is infused with some raw cannabis. So they use raw cannabis because it's less psychoactive. I wouldn't say non-psychoactive, but you would need an awful lot of it in there for you to be intoxicated by it, because most of the THC is in the acid form, which is not psychoactive. So it's not really going to get you high, but it looks incredibly appetizing. And this comes there from a little website. I'm going to pop it up here just to give them some credit. So this is the website there from Southern Vermont Wellness. And this is basically Beyond Cannabutter creamy cauliflower soup with raw cannabis oil. This cauliflower soup is so silky smooth and dreamy, you'd swear it has cream in it. It's vegan, gluten free, paleo friendly though, which is nice when you're trying to watch your diet after a month of holiday gorging. The soup is topped off with a vibrant raw cannabis and a basil oil to give it peppery, herbaceous bite. With the raw cannabis, you're going to get all of the wonderful anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective properties of THCA without any intoxication. Then again, if you would like some of that THC action, you can always substitute some of that avocado oil in this recipe with a medicated version. And guys, you're probably wondering what's he on? What's he on about soup for? Like, because I just this is a nice transition there over to the first story of today's 420 news. And it's a man caught with €20,000 worth of cannabis. He told the Gardaí that he was going to be he was using it to make soup. So a Nigerian man caught with an estimated street value of €20,000 of cannabis told Gardaí it was completely different type of material to normal cannabis that he was using, and that he was using it to make soup. So Eddie Osagi, 50-year-old, was caught with 2 packets of the paste-like material in a cereal box inside another bag in his car when it was stopped by Gardaí. Garda William Hosford said the offence came to light due to the smell of cannabis coming from the car. 2 packets were found in the cereal boxes in the car, and Garda Hosford said that the cannabis weighed over a kilo and the Garda valuation for the drug was put at €20,000. Excuse me. Osagi was arrested and then made certain admissions. He said he had it for medicinal reasons and he used it for making soup. The 50-year-old from Nigeria has been living in Ireland since 2003 and he has no previous convictions for drug offences. Elizabeth O'Connell, his defence senior counsel, said what the guards found was a type of paste. It was unusual. It was quite squashed together package. It was not the normal cannabis. He was very forthcoming. It is an African concoction. It was mixed with beans, guys, alright? It was mixed with beans. So this is why it was a paste, okay? Beans and cannabis. You know, normally I like my beans and toast, but I might have to try beans and cannabis next. So he used to smoke some of the cannabis, said Miss O'Connell, but she said that this was out of character and there was nothing like this in his past. And then my buddy, Judge Sean O'Donovan, the clown, the absolute, like, what a wanker. He gave him a 2-year jail sentence with the last year of it suspended, if that's of any consolation. A year for fucking beans and cannabis. Like, come off it. Like, come on. Like, in fairness. A year in prison. That's €100,000, guys, that he's charging our taxpayers now to take care of this criminal, this man who liked beans and cannabis. Like, in fairness, I wonder why his farts smell like. But come on, a year suspended. Like, the fact that he was even brought to court. Oh man, I this really just annoys me. Like, you know, I make a laugh and a joke about it at times, you know, what have ya. But in fairness, like, beans and cannabis, guys, it's a joke. The man was going to make some soup. Like, come on. We have no respect for individuals at all in our modern day society. We really don't. Because, like, how are we free people if we can't even have beans and cannabis? You know? It's cannabis, guys. It's good for your health. There's antioxidants in there. There's neuroprotectants in there. There's so much in there that's good for your health, and the government are getting in the way of it. They're trying to deny it to us. As I said there earlier, the United Nations were asked numerous times to reschedule cannabis and THC and stuff like that for health reasons and for research reasons, and they didn't do it. And meanwhile, we're wondering then why Judge Sean O'Donovan is here discriminating against us and our community members, you know, people who like to consume cannabis. Why is this allowed today? Why is it allowed? You know, it's ridiculous. This man now is a year in prison, not to mention now a conviction that will go with that, and it's going to severely limit his ability to travel if he wants to leave the EU anyway for that reason, you know? Absolutely ridiculous. That's just straight up discrimination in my eyes anyway. Like, the laws around cannabis, they're just unjust. They're not worth respecting anymore. We all need to just get straight out there and be breaking them just loud and proud as much as we can. in protest, guys, not just to be out smoking a joint or to be possessing cannabis, but when you do it, like, you have to remember it's been done in protest. And if I have some hair, like, this is protest, this is all protest. I have a spliff hair of my hand, spark that up. That's a protest. Check out my interview with Pepe Rivera, guys, and he there was a very enlightening episode, or a very enlightening interview as to how the Mexican government there respect their right to protest, because what he said is that they grow plants there right next to the Senate, and these plants are protest plants, and the authorities don't take them away, because what he said is that would be like taking away your placard. If you were down protesting outside the city hall and you had a poster that said free cannabis or legalized cannabis, well, that would be like them coming and taking that off you. If you've got a cannabis plant there and that's your form of protest, that's a real valid form of protest, like, and it's a civil disobedience. They shouldn't come and take that off you. Your right to protest should come before that stupid law, the cannabis prohibition laws. They undermine our human rights and our freedom to protest, our freedom of expression, our freedom to just be people and live our lives. I harm nobody in what I do, so I don't feel like there's any justification to inhibit my ability to do it. But anyhow, Judge O'Donovan says it was very knowingly done and with a curious sense of entitlement that he had it for medicine / food value / this is what I do. Like, what, Judge O'Donovan, what about your bloody sense of entitlement that this is my job and this is what I do, and you don't question it at all? You clown. Like, you get paid to do what you do. This man is just living his life being a human being, but you actually get paid to be up there to be a bloody tyrant, because that's all you are, is you're a terrorist, terrorising the bloody cannabis community. There was a woman up before Judge Sean O'Donovan there last week, okay, and she terrorised her stepdaughter. Her stepdaughter, from a very young age, for 11 years of her life, she terrorised and tortured a young child, a young girl, her stepdaughter. Judge Sean O'Donovan gave her 2 years. 2 years. Tortured another human being, actually physically tortured them. Physically, verbally, and emotionally, all of the above. And 2 years. Meanwhile, you get caught with €20,000 worth of cannabis, so it gets on par with that. Come off the stage. Judge Sean O'Donovan, you're a tyrant, man. You're a terrorist, and you're just bad for our country. As I said, he had no previous convictions for his crime of the sort. He had arrived with a urine analysis, which in this case was crying out for, and he had that option that he and others would have been acutely aware to him, and others it would progress his case. I do not make no sense of that. But because the car was used to carry the drug, Judge O'Donovan, okay, here's the real cherry on top, all right, also disqualified the man from driving for 4 years. 4 years. Like, it's bad enough, right? You're locked up for a year, and then you get out of prison, and now, it's the equivalent to taking away the man's leg, If his only means of travelling was walking, if he got caught with that cannabis while he was walking down the road, and Judge Sean O'Donovan says, well, you were using your legs to transport the drugs, so we're going to take away your legs for 4 years. You're not allowed to walk. We're going to tie them together. You can only hop now everywhere you go. Like, come on, where does it make sense? Come on, where's the justification for taking this man's goddamn licence away? How's he supposed to be a contributing member in our society if you're inhibiting his ability just to get by in life? Like, look at the goddamn bloody public transport system in this country. It's a joke. And you're taking away this man's ability to drive. And it's a sensitive one for me, Judge, because you done it to me too, you prick. A year off the fucking road for €5 worth of cannabis. I hope you remember, because I'll never forget it. Asshole. But anyhow, I'll drive on, because Judge Sean O'Donovan is only going to get a bollocking off me if I stay here on this story any longer. And other stories, guys, and apologies here for it being a bit of a lazy one today, just using the word and not having any photos or anything up here for you. But anyhow, Gardaí found €20,000 of cannabis in a car in Cork and jailed the man for 3 years. All right, another kilo of cannabis just happens to be found in Cork. And a young fella getting 3 years in prison, and he was only 23 years of age. This young fella as well. So a young man parked his Audi A5 a short distance from Cork City centre, where another person was to pick up a €20,000 package of cannabis. However, Gardaí observed the young motorist's suspicious activities and carried out a search. What keen-eyed Gardaí? Like, what was he doing? What was he doing? Like, was his hands in his pocket or something? Oh, he's suspicious over there. Let's go get him. Like, come on. Like, that's what they stopped me for. I was acting suspiciously. I was getting a bloody bottle from the footwell of my car to see if it had water in it, because I was right next to a shop where I was going to buy another bottle of water if it was empty. And that was suspicious. And I got caught with a joint. Ah. So that was on the 7th of July, and now at Cork Circuit Criminal Court, the accused man has been jailed for 3 years, as the judge remarked that the accused had played a vital role in the supply of drugs in Cork City. Garda Paul Delaney said Gardaí were on duty in the Barrack Street area when they saw a 23-year-old Rakib Lahadjo leaving. Sorry, no, for butchering your surname. Leaving his car in Industry Street off Barrack Street at 11:45 p.m. on Tuesday night. The defendants and his passenger and the car itself was searched. A gear bag was found in the car with 10 vacuum-packed bags of cannabis with a street value of €20,000. So 100 grams in each package there anyway, because there was a kilo there, 10 packages, 100 grams per kilo or package. The defendant was interviewed, and his explanations was that he knew that what was in the back, and he told Gardaí he'd been asked to park his car in that street and allow it to be used for the storage of the drugs. He was remanded in custody since July. So this young fella has been locked up since July. Like that woman who tortured her daughter, she wasn't remanded in custody. Defence barrister Sinead Behin said the defendant's Muslim family had taken a very serious view of his offending behaviour. Miss Behin said the young man had done very well in school and spent 3 years studying at the National Maritime Institute. So he's got a head on his shoulders, he's educated, and he's got a family who obviously care about him. He's coming from a well-connected community, and now they're driving a wedge between that because of this criminal activity. But like, have cannabis been legal? Maybe this young man would have been, like, he's in the National Maritime Institute. Maybe he would have used that education to be, I don't know, a contributor to our society by being a positive entrepreneur in the cannabis industry. Who knows what this man would have got into had cannabis not been illegal. But because it was illegal, and we all know it's the most widely used illegal drug out there, people are going to get into it, especially young fellas. They're the low-hanging fruit out there for the bigger crime networks, the young fellas. Because, you give a young fella, oh, here's a kilo there, and you can have it on tick too. Oh, yeah, decent, yeah, you know what I mean? That young fella's going to love you. You made his day. The defendant had been residing in Glanmire and pleaded guilty to having more than €13,000 worth of the drugs, which put him at risk of a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence. And here we go again. It's my buddy, Judge Sean O'Donovan. He said he would not impose the minimum mandatory because he's a ballless bastard. Yeah, Judge Sean O'Donovan, why don't you just do your job? It's a mandatory sentence, okay? Mandatory, that same thing that's about the masks. You're supposed to have to wear them. Come on, what's the story here? Why aren't you imposing these sentences? Or is it a case that you know that this isn't worthy of it? You shouldn't be locking a fella up for 10 years for cannabis, should ya? No, especially when you're not locking people up for 10 years for torturing their bloody stepdaughters, you sick individual. Really, and the pedos you've let off over the years? Jeez, Judge Sean O'Donovan, man, you've a lot to be ashamed of. You really do. Giving young fellas here like a couple of years sentences for cannabis, and meanwhile you're letting off child abusers. You sick puppy, yeah. Just Sean, Joe, I'm going to be appealing my case as well soon, guys, and it's potential I'll end up in front of Judge Sean O'Donovan, because he sees cases a lot in the circuit court, and that's where my case will be going once I appeal it. And I hope I get you, Judge Sean O'Donovan, because I'll have a lovely smile for you, bye. He had bags of cannabis herb, no doubt. He was knowingly, and this is comments from Judge Sean O'Donovan, he had bags of cannabis herb, no doubt he was knowingly involved. He appears to have facilitated dealing. All of these steps are important in the delivery of drugs to the community. Every step, every party, every cog in the wheel is important, including you, Judge Sean O'Donovan, you big clown. You and the justice system are the biggest cog in the wheel when it comes to getting drugs into the hands of the criminals, because ye are the gatekeepers of prohibition. If you just fucked off with your prohibition and regulated drugs, they wouldn't be in the hands of drug dealers, no, would they? No, they would be sold from a regulated source, like we do with alcohol. Because guess what? When we prohibited alcohol, well, guess where alcohol was sold from? alcohol dealers, or what were they called back then? Drug dealers, because when alcohol was illegal, it wasn't too hard then to differentiate it from the other drugs. But no, everybody thinks alcohol is not a drug. And this judge doesn't think he's a cog in the wheel in the drug supply system. What an ignorant old fool. He supplied an important function in the supply of the drugs in the cities, the judge said. A sentence of 5 years was imposed, with the last 2 years suspended at Cork Circuit Criminal Court. So why didn't he give this young fella the years off the road? He gave it to the 50-year-old. Where's your consistency here, Judge Sean O'Donovan? Or are you smoking too much marijuana there in your lunch breaks, or what? Like, is the old memory dry and short? As I never forget, actually, the day I was in court with Judge Sean O'Donovan, and I was up before him appealing my case where another judge had sent me off the road for a year. And within 3 minutes, he heard that case and he upheld the decision of the past judge. But I couldn't help it when I was standing there just looking at him, and the big hypocritical head in him. Because while he was there judging me for my drug use, he had a big whiskey looking nose in him. You know, that big puffed out red looking face. Big glowing red nose. And it was after lunchtime this day too. I'd say he was after being across the road there in the chambers or wherever these judges go for lunch. And he probably had an old whiskey on his lunch break. And then he comes in half cut after his whiskey or two, and he gives me a year off the road and my only crime was possessing a little bit of cannabis. In case any of you wonder why I have such fucking hate for the man, like, there you go. That's the reason why. And then, guys, down in Kerry, we go for the next piece of news. So there was €4,000 worth of plants there found down in Kerry during a day of action in Kerry. So there was 2 operations undergoing down in Kerry. One of the operations I have no issues with. It was actually a life-saving operation where they were carrying out vital road point checks to make sure people had their seatbelts on, making sure tyres weren't defective and lights and all of that stuff was operating correctly. Like, I think that's good. That's good use of Gardaí time. Make sure cars are safe on the road, you know, make sure your tyres are good and all of that stuff. Like, whatever about NCTs, that stuff kind of annoys me. But, like, actually checking people to make sure they're safe, that's good. But the second part of their operation, okay? So the second part of their operation then, it involved carrying out a search of 6 houses in Waterville, Caherdaniel and Cahersiveen, okay? Beautiful parts of our country there down in County Kerry. In total, approximately, all right, 6 houses searched, €4,000 worth of drugs found. So 4,000 worth of suspected cannabis plants and herb were seized, along with a small quantity of suspected cocaine. So 6 houses searched, okay? An entire operation, €4,000 worth of plants and herb and a small bit of cocaine. Money well spent, eh, guys? You know? Absolutely ridiculous. Like, some poor fella down there, I don't know, like 1 or 2 plants, it's 6 houses. So let's say one house had what, 2 plants, 3 plants, another house had 2 or 3 plants, and then a bit of herb in another one. Like, there was probably houses there that they raided that they found absolutely nothing in, okay? Stupid. Oh, I hate this bullshit. Like, this war on drugs, it's so retarded and it really needs to end. No arrests have been made, but the Gardaí are following a definite line of inquiry in each incident. Superintendent Flora Murphy said that the operation reflects the commitment of An Garda Síochána to tackle the illegal drug activity in South Kerry area. And that's it for today, guys. That is all of your 420 news. Like, and I should have actually saved something nice to finish on, but as you do, like, that's the way it went. I started with the good, finished with the bad. Absolutely ridiculous carry on there by the Gardaí as well. Like, oh, you know, superintendent, like, patting the back there for himself. Look, oh, we're very good. Look at us there. We're fighting the war on drugs. We're doing decent. But meanwhile, they don't mention the fact that they're just wasting piles and piles of taxpayers' money every fucking year that we do this. That we don't end this prohibition, and they don't talk about that. They don't reflect on that at all. They don't, like, you never hear the guards saying, geez, when's this ever going to end? They never do. They don't think about this because they know it is never going to end. They know that as long as people want drugs, there will be people willing to supply those drugs. As long as there's money to be made to supply people drugs, people will be willing to break the law to get drugs to people, you know? So it's a never-ending cycle. The only way we're ever going to do something about it, the true way forward, is harm reduction. The best way to reduce harm, regulate the supply of the drugs. Regulate the sale and supply of cannabis, and you could do the same for cocaine, heroin, whatever, all each in their own individual way. I'm not saying that you have a heroin shop down the road. Who would go in there? Anybody out there going to be down there queuing up outside the heroin shop? No, this is not going to work like that. As much as the prohibitionists and the propaganda spreaders out there would want you to try to believe that that's what legalization or the decriminalization of drugs would mean, it's not. It's not, for fuck's sake, lads. In fairness, it's not. If we were to decriminalise the drug user and say legalise cannabis, all that's going to mean is that people now have an alternative to alcohol, for one, which is amazing. That's going to save our society so much bloody money and so much trouble going forward. Imagine how little trouble the Gardaí would have to deal with on a Saturday night if people had a choice whether to just drink beer or to smoke a few doobs, or to maybe have a glass of wine with a doob, a nice sophisticated, relaxed, chilled evening, nothing too intense, some nice, articulate, deep conversations. What's wrong with that? Why are we being denied this opportunity? Why? I just don't understand it. Why are we robbing our society of this opportunity to progress and to come out of this fucking hellish era of prohibition? I just really don't know. But guys, I'm going to pop on over there to the comments. Hopefully all is going good out there, guys, for you. Top of the list today is Ken, so happy 420, Ken. Thanks for your greetings there. And underneath himself then is Dave. Dave, thanks very much again for joining. Dave says, looks nice, time got away from him today. Skins from Chernobyl. That's just that green skin or the green screen there kicking in, causing a bit of a blurring. Didn't get to smoke much of that, actually. Would have been coughing loads over the bloody hash inside it anyway as well. The WHO, the World Hoax Organization. Very nice. That's coming in there from Sean. As I said, lads, the hash, like, she's a lung buster. Sorry for coughing in the mic. Christian Jazz is happy 420 there as well, lads. Keep 'em blazed. Yeah, nice one for stopping by. And Dave's Deezy says, nerves don't show. Keep up the good work. Nice one, man. Yeah, as I said, they mightn't show, but if you were to shake my hand right now. Donald Cotter says, great insight into the Mexican movement yesterday. Thanks for that, Donald, and thanks for tuning in as well. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Guys, if you haven't checked it out already, check out that interview with Pepe Rivera. It's really interesting stuff anyway, as how cannabis prohibition is it's violating our human rights. Robert McCormick then says 200 million US citizens now have access to medicinal marijuana and 100 million can legally buy recreational cannabis. 17 other countries, including Holland, Belgium and Germany, have made cannabis a medicine since, and Israel has opened up the world's first university course in medical cannabis. Yet in the UK and Ireland, all the government can say to the request of the patients and community is their infantile mantra: drugs are harmful, cannabis is a drug, and so it is harmful, so we keep it illegal. Well said there, Robert, man. It's so true. That is exactly their response. They're so ignorant and it's so damaging, like, I think that ignorance is just more damaging to our society than all drug use combined, it really is. You see all the suffering there. It was 1987. The first recommendation was made to move THC to Schedule 2 so that we can allow cancer patients to treat their nausea with it, and they denied that. Scumbags. Robert then adds here, this simplistic approach is flawed in many ways. Morphine is illegal when used recreationally, yet it is allowed for therapeutic purposes. So why not cannabis, a herb with a long tradition in medicine? Prohibition denies patients access, and worse, it means they can be actively persecuted for its use. It is estimated that at least 30,000 people a day in the UK break the cannabis laws by using it for medicinal purposes, and if they are caught, they must be persecuted, as there is no longer a defence of medical necessity. That's 30,000 people a day in the UK break the laws because of cannabis prohibition, because cannabis is a medicine and people need it to treat the conditions that they suffer with. And we are a backward society. We criminalize those people. Um, and there's some replies there then to those. I'll jump down. Sean says here, nature is bad, synthetic good. Laugh out loud. Yeah, man, that was the fair there with the rulings around CBD, that they were going to try to rule CBD be a narcotic, which would have meant similar to what they're doing now with THC here, that it's not as bad from a synthetic form, but it's terrible from the natural form, which it makes no sense. They're one of the same thing. Cronin Matty says, smoking one now. Good stuff, Cronin. I'm going to have another talk here because I keep leaving it go out. Don't want to be coughing up lungs here while trying to read these comments either. Sean adds here then as well. He says, juggling the issue to distract us and make it seem like they are taking it seriously. They won't be happy till Big Pharma controls it. Fuck their voting. Mass disobedience is the way to go. Man, you're a man after my own heart. I don't have any faith in these guys. I hope that they do something, you know, but do I have much faith in them? Based on their past actions, I have very little faith in them. The only thing I have faith in is massive disobedience and people power. You know, the people have the power. We always have to remember that, guys. The people have the power. We need to stand up and be represented, guys. We can't let them discriminate against us the way they have been. It's ridiculous. They only get away with it because we allow them to. Damien adds here that it is God given. They should not have the power to take it away. Yeah, your human rights are non-negotiable. You can't opt out of them. They are non-negotiable. Teresa O'Connell says here, they only listen to the World Health Organization when it suits them. The same with the EU regulations. Yeah, you're dead right. As I said, be coughing up along with this stuff. Robert says here, why are we so out of step with the rest of the Western world? The answer is complicated and multifactorial, is a mixture of politics. Excuse me, sorry guys. The answer is complicated and multifactorial. A mixture of politics, commercial pressures from the alcohol and pharmaceutical industries, media exploitation, and scientific misunderstandings. Yeah, I would agree with you there as well. The answer is quite complicated, but it can also be simple. People just get the fuck up, stand up, and don't sit down until we get what we want. Dave says he can't stand cauliflower. Go for the potato version instead then, man. Cauliflower is just a bit less starchy, I suppose, but you could always swap cauliflower out for potatoes. Ken says here, a medicated version for sure, then that's with the soup, man. I would be the same, medicated for sure. Then Ken says, your view on Shawnee Vai, hilarious. Nice one. Sorry, I try not to be like, I don't know, vulgar on this. I try not to use expletives. But when it comes to Jonathan O'Donovan, man, it's very hard to hold back. Like, the man is just a langer of the highest order. Tina McLeod then says that I went to a free festival in 1971, Harlow, UK, against cannabis being made a Class A. I was 12. Hawking played. And that must have been, it's a nice memory to have, actually. 1971. And cannabis was made a Class A, and it's been moved around there in the UK since then. It was made a Class C for a while, if I believe correct, and then it went to Class B, and then to A, and then to B. They're kind of moving it around there. They can't really make sense of it either themselves. Poor Professor Nutton, his recommendations, I wish they listened to him then. And Geraldine McDonald then says, you're doing a great job, very well said. Thanks very much, Geraldine. And Tina says he was suspiciously wearing trainers. I need a hoodie on as well. Like, she's like, those hoodies are incredibly suspicious. Like, oh jeez. And Ken says actually four empty houses, possibly five. Yeah, most probably was. So there you go, guys. That is all the comments for today, and that is all your 420 news for today. I don't have much else to be reporting back to you guys, except something I was talking about there just a little bit earlier. So I was in court earlier in the week. I was convicted for possessing €10 worth of cannabis, and I was fined a €400 fine. I was saying I'm not going to pay that fine, and I'm not going to pay that fine. What I'm actually going to do now instead is I'm going to appealing that decision. So I'm going to appeal that case now, and I'm going to bring it to the next court up, which will be the circuit court, where I said, as I say, I could meet Judge Sean O'Donovan, and I hope he watch my shows. I hope he knows how I feel about him. It's not personal, Sean, but it is actually. It's very personal because you took me off the road for a year, you prick. But I hope he watches, and I hope I do find myself in front of him. But I will appeal that case, and I'll see what happens. The appeal could take up to a year, maybe even 2 years for it to find its way to court. Hopefully, in that time frame, a lot will have changed around cannabis policies here in Ireland. I remain hopeful. We'll see what happens between now and then. But I'll have a long time anyway to get stuff done. So that's my decision, guys. So you heard it here. I'm not going to be paying that fine. I'm going to appeal the decision of Judge Olin Kelleher, who fined me €400 and convicted me of possessing cannabis. So I'm going to appeal it on the grounds that they're violating my human rights. So there you go, guys. That's all your 420 news for today, guys. I hope you have a fantabulous weekend out there. Um, I don't have much planned myself. It's going to be watching the Toy Show this evening. So that's about as exciting as my weekend is going to get. Toy Show this evening. Sunday. I have an exciting Sunday lined up, guys. I'm going to be up in Dublin Sunday. I'm going to be up in Dublin recording Eating with the Enemy. I announced it there about a month or so ago that I handed in an application to take part in the show. So Eating with the Enemy is going to be me sitting across a table from somebody with opposing views to me, and we get to have a discussion. I don't know who they're going to sit me across the table from. Hopefully it might be Judge Sean O'Donovan. But maybe, we don't know. We'll see who it's going to be. So Sunday, I'm going to be up in Dublin recording that at around 4:30. So I should be finished sometime in the evening, 6 or 7. I don't know, will I just head straight back to Cork, or if I will go take a little walk around Dublin, even though the whole place is locked down and everything. But if there's anything going on up in Dublin, if anybody wants to say hi, if anybody wants to meet up, if anybody wants to do an interview, give me a shout. I'll be up in town. So that's all, guys. Until next Monday, I'll be back next Monday. As always, guys, stay blazed and keep her lit. Peace.